Last week, the Minister for Hunting and Fishing. We've got a Minister for Hunting and Fishing? How absurd. But we do have one. Good God. And they talk about creating jobs in the public sector that have no meaning. I would have thought there's number one. The Minister for Hunting and Fishing, Todd McClay, launched last week an access charter, or the charter, to ensure better access for recreational hunting and fishing on public conservation land across New Zealand. The charter establishes guiding principles for the Department of Conservation to provide clear and transparent decision on public conservation land and access that makes it easier for Kiwis to go hunting and fishing. And given that so many of our listeners on the platform are hunters and fishers, I thought we should have a chat about this. In fact, it's not just people who listen to the platform. 1.2 million people in this country hunt and fish recreationally, about a fifth of the country, and the charter will guarantee a common and consistent approach. But why did we need one in the first place? To join us to talk about that is the Chief Executive of the Deerstalkers Association, Gwyn Thurlow, and he joins us now. Gwyn, welcome to the show. Lovely to have you on.
Thanks for having me, and interesting to hear. I fully support Todd having the Ministry of Hunting and Fishing, and he's a minister without one single government bureaucrat in the role. So he's at the top, and it's just him. And it's a
who? Which is the department that looks after him then? Because he's got to have staff.
He would be supported by Department of Conservation through their recreation function, Fish and Game, and also the Game Animal Council for big game. So he's sort of the figurehead, but the lead minister would be Tama Potaka on conservation.
Yes, that's right, because he's the minister. I read this and I saw it and I went, what? In the sense of, why do you need an access charter? The Department of Conservation have public land, they've been hunting and fishing on it forever. What was the problem?
It's the result of a lot of discontent from the recreational community, and over the years we've seen our access ways lost, maintenance of our tracks. We've seen foreign investment close traditional walkways, and we've really seen a Department of Conservation struggling to do its job. And the Deerstalkers was one of those interested parties, along with Federated Mountain Clubs, or the Trampers, the fishermen. And over the years, we've just seen DOC take their eye off the ball in terms of making sure that people can do what they go to a 9-to-5 job and earn and contribute to the economy. And then on the weekends, they want to go fish, they want to go hunt. And areas where they were taken by their father or their grandfather have become closed. And it's a significant trend, and we're really pleased and we welcome this. It is a charter, it is a signal from the top, but it's something that hunters really welcome, and we think Todd's doing a good thing representing our interests, and this is a positive step.
I live in an area that's bordered by DOC land, which has hunting and fishing contained within it. I assume to get to that DOC land, you've got to go, usually in most cases, over high country farms or something similar to get there, certainly private land. Now, if those private landowners say, no, you can't walk through my property carrying guns or fishing rods, that's still allowed under this charter?
It's a complex situation. It'll depend on the legal nature of the access right. So we have, what's called, well, everyone knows about paper roads. So they're surveyed roads that were never formed, so unformed roads. And then you've got easements, public walkways, and normal public roads and tracks. So, and landowners have a lot of say, and a lot of farmers over time used to just let people go on their land. And we've seen foreign investment buy up those beautiful bits of country, corporatisation, so forestry blocks, farms turning into plantations, and the good old Kiwi farmer is pretty good with letting access, but when you start involving corporates and foreigners or rich individuals that buy these beautiful bits of our country, they don't like people on their land. And so, one of the things that we are seeing is an erosion of traditional access.
Okay. It says the guiding principle here is, quote, and it's number 1, the public right of access. The public has a right to access public conservation land and waters, including for recreational hunting and fishing. We, this is the government, will guarantee this access, and where there needs to be restrictions to limit access, we will clearly explain why. That would suggest to me that we've got a long way to go before we actually get to that state, because there's going to have to be some rules, possibly even legislation around this issue, are there?
It's more government, the government bureaucrats, so the dock workers that have the instruments. So the legal tools are there, Michael. You can.
They're already there, saying, yeah.
Yeah, they're already there. It's just using them and putting in those tracks, maintaining those markers, putting up access signs. I mean, we've all seen, fishing access here. When you travel in New Zealand, you drive, you see the fishing game sign saying, access to the river here. And then, of course, a really good example you see in Southland, where the farmers are pushing back on fishing game and removing their access because of environmental activism. And so it's a really complex situation where New Zealand, we cherish our public access, but we don't do anything to maintain it. This is a really good step from Todd, and we hope it sends a strong direction to his department to maintain those walkways.
There'll be a lot of people listening to this going, wait on, I own this land or this block, I've bought it. I don't want people wandering over my land with guns in particular. I don't know whether they've got licenses or not, and I'm pretty sure I won't have the ability to go up and demand that they show them to me. What do you say to those people?
I think they're all valid points and valid concerns, and I think, the third part of this charter says your responsibilities. So part of having access through those blocks is being respectful and minimising bad actors and, doing the right thing, being respectful if you're carrying a firearm. And I think most of the hunting community and the fishing community are respectful. And of course you're always going to get bad actors, but for the main part, hunting's a pretty safe activity and it's part of our culture. Same with fishing, tramping, horse riding, kayaking. So all of those public access rights are something we all cherish as New Zealanders.
So let me get this right. So there's dockland behind me, let's just say, or you've got to go through my property to access the dockland on which you want to hunt and fish. Can I just ask, at the moment, I can stop you coming onto my land just by saying, bugger off. How is this going to work if I still want to say, no, you can't come through my land?
So they're not proposing to change private property rights. So as the owner of property, you have the right to exclude people or welcome them. Across New Zealand, across a lot of our farms, some farms allow access to the dockland beyond, and that's gratefully welcome, and we'd encourage more farmers to give that access to allow people to go through their property safely. But farmers and landowners, forestry owners are more within their rights to say no to that access or limit it to a certain group of people. So some farmers will let a trusted friends or family come through their land. Yeah. So I don't think this charter is saying they want to open up walkways through private land. It's clearly on public land with existing legal access. Okay.
I still see... Okay, all right. Listen, you've mentioned the issue of fish and game and you've mentioned federated farmers, and there's a war, you'd have to say, a political war happening there between those two agencies. This may well spread, and I have to say, into Otago. There are Otago farmers who are feeling the same thing as well, as a result of what they consider to be environmental activism by fish and game staff, mostly, rather than the elected officials. Do you see this as a potential hindrance to these guiding principles in the future?